Welcome back to my series, The Bible Doesn't Make Any Sense. Today's episode, Exodus 21 verses 20 through 21, Leviticus 25 verses 39 through 46, Deuteronomy 23 verses 15 and 16, and Deuteronomy 24 verse 7. Some time ago, I made a video about verses in the Bible that talked about slavery, and every verse in that video was in the New Testament. Then this genius of a person commented on that video, show me any of these in the Old Testament. So when I saw your comment, I decided to just merge the two into one video. So let's talk about slavery in the Bible in the Old Testament. First up is Exodus 21. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. Starting off nice and strong, aren't we? Beat that person because they are your property, but don't kill them, because if you kill them, then I have to punish you. But, you're fine if they live. They'll recover after a couple of days. They'll be fine. Now, a lot of the comments in the video that I made about the verses about slavery in the New Testament were trying to say, oh, well, these verses, they're not talking about slavery like we know it now. It was indentured servitude, which is a form of labor where an individual is under contract to work without a salary to repay an indenture or a loan within a certain time frame. And yes, the concept of indentured servitude is shown in the Bible. However, the Bible is very clear about the difference between the slaves and the indentured servants. That's where Leviticus 25 comes in. If any of your fellow Israelites become poor and sell themselves to you, do not make them work as slaves. They are to be treated as hired workers or temporary residents among you. They are to work for you until the year of Jubilee. Then they and their children are to be released, and they will go back to their clans and to the property of their ancestors. Because the Israelites are my servants, whom I brought out of Egypt, they must not be sold as slaves. Do not rule over them ruthlessly, but fear your God. Then it continues, your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you and the members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property. You can bequeath them to your children as inherited property, and you can make them slaves for life, but you must not rule over your fellow Israelites ruthlessly. The indentured servants were only the Israelites. All of the outside people were the slaves. But it turns out that when the Bible said slaves, they actually meant slaves. Who would have thought? Another comment that I got a lot on that video that I made, why don't you talk about the verses that talk about treating the slaves good? Why don't you talk about that? Okay. If hearing one verse that says to treat the slaves nice, after hearing tons of verses that say as long as you don't kill the slave, you're fine, then all right, let's read a nice one. Deuteronomy 23 verses 15 and 16. If a slave is taking refuge with you, do not hand them over to their master. Let them live among you wherever they like and in whatever town they choose. Do not oppress them. Aww. How nice. Here's another somewhat nice one, Deuteronomy 24, verse 7. If someone is caught kidnapping a fellow Israelite and treating or selling them as a slave, the kidnapper must die. You must purge the evil from among you. Aww. So they like to protect their own. How nice. Yeah, beat the slave half to death who's an outsider, as long as you don't kill him. But don't you dare enslave one of us. That'll get you put to death immediately. It's so funny how the more that you read the Bible, the more that you realize, oh, this is actually not good at all.